Day 6 of the Hormuz blockade. The frigates are gone. The corvettes are gone. By any conventional metric, Iran's surface navy no longer exists as a fighting force. That is not a relief. A navy with nothing left to lose does not stand down. It sends everything it has left, and everything it has left does not look like a weapon. 14 tons, 2 anti-ship missiles, 52 knots across flat water. An IRGC PACAP-class fast attack craft does not need to survive the fight. It needs 4 minutes of confusion and 1 clear shot at a $2 billion destroyer. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 nautical miles wide. The blockade forces U.S. Navy warships to sit right in the middle of 500 civilian vessels to intercept traffic. And tonight, Iran is not sending a single boat. It is launching a coordinated multi-domain assault. Shore-based anti-ship missile batteries, Noor, Qadr, Khalij Fars, line the Iranian coast and the islands of Abu Musa and the Tums, capable of saturating the strait from multiple axes simultaneously. Ghadir-class midget submarines, at least 23 in service, lurk in shallow water where hull-mounted sonar cannot distinguish a submarine from a reef. Shahed-series suicide drones, launched by the dozens from mobile platforms, arrive at wave-top altitude where radar clutter masks them until the last mile. And hiding in the fishing cluster, 5 nautical miles from the blockade line, 30 PACAP fast attack craft, each carrying 2 Nasser-1 anti-ship missiles, radar cross-section indistinguishable from a wooden dhow. Behind them, a Shahid Soleimani-class stealth corvette providing command and control for the entire assault. From the moment the first boat breaks formation, engines surging from 10 knots to 52, the kill chain has 4 minutes. Detect the acceleration among 500 contacts. Classify it as hostile, assign the right weapon, and kill it. Miss that window, and Nasser-1 missiles are in the air. 4 minutes, 240 seconds. That is the antagonist of this episode. Not Iran, not politics, not strategy. Time. The physics of reaction in confined water. If this kind of engineering analysis is what brought you here, subscribe to Navy Decoded. We do not cover news. We disassemble weapon systems until you understand the physics that makes them work, or the physics that breaks them. Every weapon system the United States Navy has spent 70 years perfecting was designed for blue water, open ocean, hundreds of miles of standoff range. An Aegis combat system in the Pacific has 20 minutes or more to detect an incoming threat, classify it, confirm intent, assign a weapon, and fire. Time is on the defender's side. Hormuz inverts that equation. The distance between contact accelerates and missile in the air compresses to 4 minutes. And inside those 4 minutes, the kill chain must complete 4 steps, each one a potential failure point. 1. Detect the threat among 500 contacts. Radar sees every dhow, every tanker, every wave crest. The PACAP looks identical until it moves. 2. Classify it correctly. Is that a fisherman who gunned his engine to chase a tuna school, or a combatant sprinting toward missile range? Get this wrong and you engage a civilian vessel. That is not just a tactical error, that is a catastrophic failure that ends the blockade politically. 3. Assign the right weapon to the right shooter. Not just any weapon, the right weapon for this target class, fired from the right platform without conflicting with the other 29 engagements happening simultaneously. 4. Kill it. Before the Nasser-1 leaves the rail. If any single step takes too long, the chain breaks. The swarm fires. Shore batteries launch a second salvo. The destroyer transitions from hunter to hunted. That is the engineering problem. Not firepower, the Navy has more than enough. Time. And the architecture that compresses a 20-minute decision cycle into 240 seconds. 3 vectors. We start with the hardest one, seeing a 14-ton boat hiding among 500 others. The most powerful surface radar ever put to sea is the AN Spy-6 aboard the Arleigh Burke Flight 3 destroyer. Testing confirmed it exceeds the legacy Spy-1 Delta by a factor of 100, a 20 decibel improvement in sensitivity. And at Hormuz, physics still defeats it. The radar horizon equation is simple. Distance in nautical miles equals 1.23 times the square root of antenna height in feet. Spy-6 sits roughly 50 feet above the waterline. Hard detection limit for a small boat? Approximately 9 nautical miles. Atmospheric ducting can stretch that to 12, perhaps 15. But in littoral clutter, hundreds of returns bouncing off islands, dhow masts, wave crests, Extracting a clean track at that range is a different problem entirely. The radar that solves this problem is not on the destroyer. The E-2 Delta Advanced Hawkeye orbits at 25,000 feet. Same equation. Radar horizon, 195 nautical miles. The APKWS looks down. Curvature is no longer a factor. A small boat 5 nautical miles from the destroyer is visible to the Hawkeye from nearly 200 miles away. But detection alone does not let you shoot. The destroyer needs fire control quality data. That is where Cooperative Engagement Capability, CEC, changes the architecture. CEC transmits raw radar returns, not processed reports, in real time. The Aegis combat system on the destroyer fuses E-2 Delta data with its own SPY-6 returns, generating a composite track of higher fidelity than either sensor alone. Result? The destroyer sees what the Hawkeye sees, at fire control quality, despite the target being below its own radar horizon. This capability has a name: Engage on Remote. The destroyer fires an SM-6 at a target its own radar has never seen, guided entirely by E-2 Delta data, active seeker acquiring autonomously in terminal phase. In 1988, during Operation Praying Mantis, USS Wainwright killed the Iranian patrol boat Joshan using SM-1 missiles and organic radar. One boat, minutes of reaction time. Against 30 boats in 2026, that model does not scale. Engage on Remote does. But the detection layer has a single point of failure. Lose the E-2 Delta, to a Bavar 373 missile, to mechanical failure, to the simple arithmetic of flight hours, and 200 nautical miles of advance warning collapses to 15. The 4-minute window disappears. Iran knows this. 60 seconds in, the detection layer has identified 3 contacts accelerating out of the fishing cluster. The question is no longer if we shoot, it is what we shoot. And the answer depends on a calculation most people have never considered. How do you match the right weapon to the right target when the magazine cannot be reloaded at sea? Every weapon in the arsenal can kill a pay cop. The problem is not lethality, it is economics, and the doctrine the Navy calls distributed lethality. The principle? Never use a $4 million missile to kill a target that a $100,000 rocket can handle. Because every expensive round fired is one fewer available for the target that actually requires it. The magazine is finite. The kill web assigns weapons in layers, cheapest first, escalating only as the target demands it. Against the swarm, the first responders are not missiles at all. An MH-60 Romeo Seahawk helicopter carries 8 AGM-114 Hellfire missiles. Fire and forget. Millimeter wave radar seeker. $115,000 per round. 1 Hellfire, 1 boat. 1 helicopter, 8 kills. Below the Hellfire, a APKWS, a laser-guided rocket at approximately $30,000 per shot. Precise enough to hit a hull from 2 miles. Cheap enough to use liberally. $30,000 per boat. That is not an arms budget line. That is the price of one more day the blockade holds. If any boat penetrates to close range, the Mark 38 chain gun, 30 millimeters, automated tracking. The Mark 110, 57 millimeters. And as the last layer, Phalanx CIWS Block 1 Bravo, upgraded for surface engagement, 20 millimeter tungsten at less than 1 nautical mile. None of these touch the VLS cells. And Arleigh Burke carries 96 Mark 41 vertical launch cells, SM-6, SM-2, ESSM, Tomahawk, ASROC, all share those 96 tubes. The precise number of SM-6 is classified, but it is finite, and it is zero-sum. Every SM-6 fired at a surface target is one fewer available for air defense. SM-6 is held in reserve for the threats that justify its $4.3 million price. A Shahid Soleimani-class corvette at 80 nautical miles, a Ghadir submarine that is surfaced to launch torpedoes, or a salvo of Shahid drones that Hellfire cannot intercept. Mach 3.5. CEC-enabled Engage on Remote, the fastest response in the arsenal, but also the most expensive. For heavier targets, like the stealth corvette commanding the swarm or a missile battery on the coast, the Navy shifts to dedicated anti-ship missiles. Harpoon, AGM-84, approximately $1.4 million. Active radar homing, 488-pound warhead, proven over 4 decades, but not stealthy and increasingly vulnerable to electronic warfare. LASMA GM-158 Charlie, $3.24 million. Stealth cruise missile, range in excess of 200 nautical miles, 1,000-pound penetrator warhead, autonomous guidance, imaging infrared, passive RF, inertial navigation, GPS denied capable. Against a defended target, it is a guaranteed kill, but limited in inventory, air-launched only from FA-18. And at the bottom of the cost curve, QuickSync, a JDM with a maritime seeker, approximately $70,000 at production scale. Sinks ships by underwater detonation physics. It does not work against defended targets, but against a blockade runner with no air defense, it turns a bomb into a ship killer. All of these weapons, Hellfire from a helicopter, SM-6 from a destroyer, LAS-M from a fighter, QuickSync from an Air Force F-15 Echo, are fired from different platforms, operated by different services. How do they coordinate fire on 30 targets in the same 4-minute window without shooting each other? 30 boats, 4 weapon systems, 3 services. No officer plots 30 weapon target pairings on a whiteboard in 240 seconds. The math is too fast for rank. It requires architecture. That architecture is NIFC-CA, Naval Integrated Fire Control Counter Air. Despite its name, it is not limited to air defense. NIFC-CA fuses E-2 Delta, Aegis, FA-18, and MH-60 Romeo into a single fire-controlled network. CEC transmits the sensor picture. Aegis computes the weapon target solution and assigns each threat to the shooter best positioned to engage it. Hellfire for the boats at 3 nautical miles, SM-6 for the corvette at 80, LRASM for a coastal missile battery beyond the horizon, QuickSync for the blockade runner in the Air Force's lane. When the engagement extends beyond the Navy, when an F-15 Echo carrying QuickSync needs targeting data from a Navy E-2 Delta, JADC-2 enters. The Joint All-Domain Command and Control architecture bridges the service gap. One picture, one engagement solution, multiple shooters. Against a defended ship, the engagement follows what naval strategist Captain Wayne Hughes called the salvo combat model. Coordinated pulses of missile fire timed to arrive simultaneously. LRASM launches first, slowest, stealthiest, forcing the defender to commit countermeasures. Harpoon salvo follows, volume, multiple vectors. SM-6 launches last, Mach 3.5, time to arrive in the same half-second window. The defender faces a wall of threats from multiple axes, multiple speeds, multiple seeker types. Time on target, from E-2 Delta first detection to simultaneous weapons impact under 240 seconds. Somewhere aboard a destroyer no one will name, a watch officer sees 4 tracks vanish from the screen in the same half-second. That is what winning looks like at Hormuz. 4 minutes of engineering, 0 margin. The kill web is not a chain. A chain is linear. Break one link and everything fails. The kill web is a network. E-2 Delta goes down, and F-35 Bravo takes over CEC relay. FA-18 runs out of LRASMs, SM-6 fills the gap. Hellfire is depleted, deck guns assume close-in defense. Redundancy is built into every layer. But redundancy runs on magazine depth, and magazine depth is finite. This is the vulnerability the IRGC exploits, not through superior technology, but through arithmetic. Send 30 boats out of Bandar Abbas. The kill web engages all 30. Hellfire's expended. APKWS rounds burned. Deck gun ammunition consumed. Every weapon works, every boat dies. Tomorrow night, 30 more. The boats are expendable. The magazine is not. At some point, and the classification level of that number is the most closely guarded figure in the 5th Fleet, the destroyer must rotate to port for rearming. And when it does, a gap opens in the blockade line. Iran does not need to sink a destroyer, it needs to empty one. This is why the weapons ladder matters more than any single weapon in it. Every boat killed by a $30,000 APKWS instead of a $4.3 million SM-6 is one more VLS cell preserved. Every blockade runner sunk by a $70,000 QuickSync instead of a $3 million LRASM is one more night the blockade holds without rotation. The kill web does not win because it is the most powerful. It wins because it is the most economical, stretching the magazine across weeks, months, and seasons. Hellfire is not just a weapon. It is an economic sustainer for the entire campaign. QuickSync is not just a bomb. It is the reason a destroyer can stay on station 30 days longer. Before we close, if you understand why the weapons ladder matters more than any single weapon in it, type proud in the comments. It tells the algorithm this kind of analysis is worth surfacing. The kill web works. Every engagement proves it. Hellfire kills the swarm. SM-6 kills over the horizon. Larasum kills through jamming. Quicksync kills for pennies. Physics guarantees every link. But physics also guarantees this: 96 VLS cells. Finite. Every night, the IRGC sends 30 boats into the strait. The kill web burns through munitions the blockade needs for the next 6 months. Every engagement is a victory. Every victory costs something that cannot be replaced at sea. The IRGC does not need to sink a destroyer. It needs to make one leave. At what point does a perfect kill web, one that wins every engagement, run out of ammunition before the blockade runs out of time? That answer is not classified. It is classified as a number. And somewhere in the Fifth Fleet, someone is watching that number count down, one swarm at a time.